Ask the questions. Thank you, Ben. I'll introduce Emily. Emily, you are a obstetrician, gynecologist.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. What do you do?
For the medical people in the room, it's a very complicated pathway. So I have worked in obstetrics and gynecology for about 6.5, 7 years, but I'm not a fully qualified obstetrician and gynecologist. But I am a doctor, and I've worked as a doctor for, 9 years.
Yeah. Very, very glad to have you up here today and interested to hear how you can contribute. Yeah. Ben.
Great. Are we to understand complex cases such as ectopic pregnancies with nuance? Should we see it as a distressing case and not let the exception prove the rule?
Do you want to have a go at this? Yeah.
Great question. Must be someone with some experience, either medically or personally. Yeah, ectopic pregnancy is quite different. So I guess it goes back to sort of our understanding of the human being as a unique set of DNA, but I guess also that in the intrauterine environment, without disruption, they can continue to grow. That is not the case for an ectopic pregnancy. So that's the first thing to say. The second thing to say is that the ectopic pregnancy poses often a life-threatening, or can pose a life-threatening risk to the mum. So in any of these situations, if mum dies, baby dies. So we do treat, and I would say most Christians would agree, that ectopic pregnancies are not treated in the same way.
It's similar to that distinction I made between euthanasia and, it's...
The disease progression kind of
yeah,
what we mean.
Yeah. That we need to be clear on what we're talking about by an abortion as opposed to the treatment of the health of the mother to ensure she survives. Is that right? Is that how you'd view that?
Yeah, and I think I've definitely also been asked, can you take that ectopic pregnancy and put it in the uterus? And unfortunately, the answer is no. But yes, in most scenarios, that pregnancy will fail quite early in any case, yeah.
Is euthanasia different to voluntary assisted dying, i.e. a terminally ill person who is able to choose and consent with full knowledge to make the choice?
No, I would see those as, that's what I'm talking about under the category of euthanasia. I do think we do need to make the distinction between end-of-life treatment or refusing certain treatments and allowing the disease to run its course. That is a different thing from asking doctors who've made an oath to seek the preservation of the life of the person and asking them to bring on death. That's a different thing altogether. And so no, I'd see those as equivalent. Do you have thoughts on
it? Not a whole lot, except that on our end, I would agree, most obstetricians and gynecologists who I would say most are for, something like termination, but nobody actually wants to do it, which is why I think in a lot of this debate, it's quite sad for a lot of clinicians because, even the ones who are willing to do these things, I don't think anybody in their heart, in their soul, is okay with it.
Yeah.
And it's assisted suicide is in what sense, isn't it? Assisted dying is a bit of a euphemism, I think.
Yeah.
What does Christianity say about the lifestyle decision to not have kids?
For single people, that is the lifestyle that it encourages you to, and so kids do not make you a person or prove that you're living well. The Bible does say that if you're married, children are a gift from the Lord, and that your heart ought to value that which God sees as a gift. And so there is something appropriate to married couples having kids, and there is something you got to test what's going on inside that we would not be open to having kids if you are a married couple there. And yet many of the married couples in our church suffer infertility, which is very, very painful. And the inability to have kids is, the inability to achieve your desire to be a mother or father is compounded by sometimes the shame infertile couples have when they're part of a church that says, if you're married, you should have kids. And so that pressure needs to be lifted. And if you're experiencing infertility, yeah, a couple of things there. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, and I guess, with all of these things, our highest goal is not politics. Our highest goal is not sex. Our highest goal is not babies. And so I think, Rebecca McLaughlin, who writes on a lot of these things, points out that in the New Testament, like, we are a family, right? You may not have kids, and you may not be in touch with your parents, but you have parents here, and you have kids here. And that always needs to take precedence to, I guess, then the next step of thinking about all these biological processes.
Yeah. Might just say one final thing there. I do think fostering, we need to put the foster situation on the agenda for us as a church as we talk about these things. And I do think fostering, if you are single, that is possibly something you should consider being a part of as well. And I see fostering, even though you're inviting the child into a situation that doesn't have what God's designed in order to produce and bear children, it's an emergency moment where this child needs care from someone. And so although you as a single person are able to provide what it needs in a mother and a father, you are providing an emergency care for them, which would be very valuable for them. Yeah.
So
I think there was a statistic in the States a couple of years ago, again, this is from the great Rebecca McLaughlin, who said, if every church in America, one family from that church fostered a child, that would clear their system.
Yeah, wow.
So I think, as Christians, we really need to step into the space, in these difficult spaces, and offer solutions. Yeah,
if you want a next step there, just go to Anglicare, which is the Diocese of Sydney's Mercy Ministries arm, and Google Anglicare foster care, and that'll take you to the right place. Yeah.
Sorry. I think the question is asking something slightly different about unless I've misunderstood. Okay. So the lifestyle decision, is, do you see, which is a different thing to singleness and infertility?
Thank you for the distinction. Yeah, I think the lifestyle decision comes back to the heart. Do you see that which God considers a gift, and therefore are you open to that gift? That needs to impact how you view your lifestyle, yeah.
Okay. Based on Principle 4, should we be opposing pre-implantation genetic testing, selectively choosing embryos to prevent severe genetic disorders?
Someone here knows what's going on. Let's chat afterwards. The short answer, I think, is yes. The long answer is it's difficult. And, once you know someone, things become... The I guess pastoral side of it becomes complicated because we actually know a family who have a rare genetic progressively deteriorating neurological condition, and the dad has passed on to both daughters unknowingly. And so the question for them is what do they do next? And I don't know. The short answer is yes. That would be my blanket biblical answer. But I think in the nuances of life, it's challenging. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. But like the genetic testing, I think once you have an embryo, if life starts at conception, then the embryo is a human being. And at that point, it deserves all the rights and protections of a human being. And therefore, this is I'd love to have spoken more about disability, but are we open to bringing children into the world who aren't perfect? What is our view on disability? And so, yeah, as we look at society, we don't have I'm not going to say that. The number of Down syndrome kids in our society is rapidly vanishing. Why is that? And that is a heartbreaking thing, because it means they're being noticed in the ultrasounds or whatever the tests are, and they're being aborted. And if any of you have a Down syndrome person in your family, you know they are precious, they deserve care and protection, and they enrich your life. So, yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, I answered that the wrong way. So yes, we should oppose it.
Okay.
Generally, yes, we should oppose it because you're right. That is But again, on a personal level, I don't feel I have the position to tell that family what to do or to make a judgment on their decision.
Yeah.
But yes, generally, I do think the biblical position is against PGD. Yeah.
Great. We're going to wrap it up there, but sorry, you were going to say?
Well, Emily and I will be around afterwards. Love to pray with any of you for whom this is a personal thing or feel further questions. Really, I've tried to take an approach today in the sermon where I've just tried to show you here's the way we have categories to think about these things, and you need to work out, therefore, what you think God's calling you to. And I've tried to avoid polarizing it. Probably has been a little bit polarizing, but tried to avoid judgment, trying to just really impress upon you the way you think about who a human being, that really matters. And we need to think more carefully about these things.
Great.
Cool.